Je parlais des torts faits du pays, du gouvernement canadien, envers ses citoyens, pas des citoyens de notre pays. Ses citoyens! It's their citizens. One becomes a Canadian to become a Canadian. One is either born here, like many of my cousins and my aunts and uncles were, or they acquire citizenship by virtue of their residence and their responsibility, their civic duty towards this country. That's how one becomes it. One does not then become a subject of an enemy nation. And so, when my colleague from Saint-Léonard, Saint-Michel, proposes this legislation, 302, compliments to him. Compliments as well to my colleague from Vancouver, I think Kingsway, who also stood up on behalf of the NDP and said, we support this piece of legislation because we understand the basic concepts behind it, and we applaud the initiative of the member from Saint-Michel, Saint-Léonard, Saint-Michel. You know why, Mr. Speaker? I had the privilege of being around the cabinet table when this proposal enunciated in 302 was put on the table. And what the member from Saint-Léonard, Saint-Michel says is that the government of Canada should honor the commitment that it made to the 4 representative institutions of the Italian-Canadian community in the country, whether it was the Canadian Italian Business and Professional Association, the Italian Congress, la Fédération des Italiens au Canada, c'est-à-dire l'organisation résidente au Québec, et enfin, the Order of the Sons of Italy. All of those 4 organizations negotiated for the better part of 10 months in order to come up with what is called the ACE program. The government of Canada fell in 2006. The current government took up this and said, no, we're going to give you what you signed on to. We are not going to respect the contract that we signed with the representatives of the community. That contract that called for a sum that was considerably higher than what is proposed by the government. And by the way, it would flow through this organization in order to establish a foundation to achieve the educational objectives, to achieve the commemorative programs, and to gauge awareness for all the country. But it did not close the door to individual considerations by the estates of the 632 individuals who were unjustly interned. Unjustly interned. They were never charged. No laws were broken. They were never, ever given an indication of why they were there, except that they were citizens of an enemy nation. They were Canadian citizens. And forgive me if I get excited about this, because we're talking about the human rights and the citizens of everyone. E anche in italiano, guarda, quando uno diventa cittadino, è cittadino. E quindi il governo canadese all'epoca cosa fece? Fece un torto verso i suoi propri cittadini. Ed è ora che le cose si cambiano. Cioè è ora che si raddrizzano queste situazioni. Sì, va bene, bisogna farsi delle scuse. Le scuse si fanno. The government of Canada has made excuses to others. It has apologized. It's not a novel thing. If we're leaving ourselves open to any kind of legal liabilities by making an apology. L'ha fatto già diverse volte il governo, quindi l'ha fatto verso le altre nazioni, verso altri cittadini. Il cittadino italo-canadese non può essere di meno, di seconda categoria a degli altri. La cittadinanza canadese vale ed è uguale per tutti. Alors, si on est citoyen canadien, ça n'importe plus de quelle origine, de quel parti. On est citoyen, c'est tout. Donc, si on a déjà commencé avec dire nous faisons nos excuses envers des autres citoyens, donc on doit le faire aussi pour les Italiens. Pourquoi? Think about this for a moment. 632 families disrupted during the war because the political situation in the world at the time dictated a stance that nobody here wanted, but yet the people that were here of Italian origin were automatically put on guard as subjects of an enemy nation. A cousin of mine was in the Royal Navy, and yet the entire family was under police surveillance for the duration of the war. A former member of this House, whom you knew well, had a brother enlisted in the RCAF, the family under police surveillance. Nobody said, sorry, we made an error. Nobody said we were enemies of Canada. Nobody said that the Italian community committed an injustice towards the people and the country and the government of Canada. Never. But they were interned. Jobs lost, lavori persi, le famiglie distrutte, una sofferenza psicologica, una sofferenza economica, venire messa a disparte. Perché? Perché non andavano d'accordo due paesi? Non era mica la colpa di questi internati. It's right that this legislation calls, at the very least, on the government of Canada to respect the agreement signed by the government of Canada in 2005 with the 4 institutions that represent the Italian community in Canada. That's the starting point. It's not the closing point. And I compliment from Saint-Léonard Saint-Michel for having brought this legislation to this point in the House. He deserves compliments and he deserves support, not negative criticism.